Hi again, guys. We're in a moment where the miniature has been advanced and we have many tones that we have been merging all those tones. As I commented, I told you before, these bridge tones makes everything looks more organic. Everything belongs to the same flesh. But now we have to define somehow. I have focused just in the face. The body is just sketched. It's not a big deal. However, normally I work everything at once because it's much easier to see the process, and it's always much better to advance all the different parts of the miniature at the same time. So then you can have a general view of how this is working. But you can also do it as I'm doing right now. Like working first in one part and then sketching the rest. But I always recommend you to work all over to have this general feeling. I will use probably now more like inks and heavy body stuff so you can see how they work. And also these colors will complement the Reaper paints that has completely different characteristics than the inks or the heavy body. You will see more variation on the mixing and more variation on the color choice, because every brand obviously has their own properties, and in this miniature art academy we're going to cover every technique, every kind of paint, every pigment. So the idea is to make this grow and make it bigger and bigger and teach you every single thing of every field related with miniature art, obviously. So we're going to have some more open processes like this one, and also some other more classical processes that you can follow more like step by step. It's not my personal taste, but I think it's useful for you if you can see a very diverse and varied mixture of content, techniques, procedures, and approachings. We're not going to finish the miniature completely, so you will be able to see the brushstrokes, but yeah, we're going to define it enough to make it look nice. And maybe in a future video we're going to do a video about how to refine to the extreme, because I know that some of you, or many of you, obviously you are lovers of the refinement. Like, I don't know, Kittel Kanaev, for example, is a great example. And yeah, we are going to explain also how you can arrive to this extreme point of mastery in the refining process, right? So obviously we will check with you guys, because we are trying to create a community to see which things you like more, and obviously we're newbies doing that. So sorry for the mistakes, and sorry for the first stages of this project that could fail at some point, but the idea is the best, which is to show you everything. Well, we have these paints. We are going to use some Reaper colors right now. You have this fire orange and this red. These colors, I mean, I have never tried them before, so I don't know how they will react. These are the names. I mean, I always say the same, forget about names, because if you learn the names, every name change depending on the brand, so it makes you a slave of the name, and that makes no sense. It's much better to analyze the colors individually, right? In this case, all the pigments are super matte and super fine, and the finest pigments are always very matte, that makes sense. Because obviously it's not about a matter of saturation. You can be saturated but also matte at the same time. These super fine pigments, the same as scale 75, not so much with Vallejo or Andrea colors or Prince August, but they belong all to the same kind of paints. Even if you see, like, for example, this orange that looks very orangey, but it will never be as strong as an ink or a heavy body artist color. And it's not that one color is better than the others, it's that each color has different properties, or each brand has different properties, and you have to distinguish and being able to analyze what's the material that you're using and why, basically. So if I use these colors, I know that they will get a very thin coat, very thin layer of paint, and that the distribution of the light when it hits the surface, it will be more regular, and that's the reason why they are super matte. It looks like the paint absorbs the light instead of bouncing it. We have the palette. It is not humid anymore right now, but as is the last part of the process, well, we will just use the other side of the palette, and that will be more than enough. We don't like to use this or I don't like to use these pre-made colors like this, but at the end of a process, sometimes I can accept to use a pre-made skin tone to simplify the process and go even faster, because I already create the nuances and I already create the multiple tones you have been watching in the previous videos. So obviously, because of the tonal variation work, it's already done. Then now we're doing adjust, you know, we have to adjust and balance the different tones with bridge colors. It's not that I'm gonna use all these colors, it's not that I have selected these colors very consciously. No, I took them more or less because I like them and because I felt that they could be interesting and they could match perfectly with the colors I was using in the previous videos. And now we will see how to match these colors. Obviously, you see that this is the real distance, more or less, of the bust, you know, and this is how it looks. And you see that the colors are already merging in many areas, like the jaw area. It looks quite defined. Obviously, the sketchy part, but even if it's patched, you can still appreciate the travel through the different tonalities. You can appreciate that it's not perfectly blended, but it's quite defined, you know. So here, the reason why I left it like this is because now you can see like different stages, different parts of definition, you know, until which point I arrive by defining from the initial sketch to the most refined part, which is the face. So if we do a zoom, obviously to search for the errors, and this is a very unnatural way of looking at the piece, because we don't use like Zoom or Google's in hand. But you can see here that there are multiple tones and multiple variations, and is interesting. And this travel, this trip through the different tones makes it looks very organic, you know. It looks convincing. However, it's not perfect, but well, obviously nothing is perfect. See what's the thumb? Check my fingers. So obviously, yeah, I know they are not like perfect transitions, but it's quite decent for the moment, you know, for the level of zoom we have. So what was the main goal until this point? It was to generate an organic feeling of a skin tone where multiple different tones are combined and multiple tones are making the game, you know, this battlefield where those different tonalities are dividing in something more subtle nuances. We call them nuances, that are like subtle flavors that you can find in a pot, for example, right? So it's an interesting paint. It's an interesting painting, and what we have to do right now is to merge the different colors. You see, in between different patches or areas of colors, we have to find the bridge colors, as I said in the previous videos, to make this feeling of fake blending but definition. Remember, not blending, not smoothness. That's a wrong vocabulary. We're not searching for this, but we're searching for right definition. Okay. So what will be the technique to use for this, it depends because there are many different techniques, and it all depends on basically your way of being or your way of painting. So it depends on what you want to do. It depends on how you feel comfortable. Some people feel more comfortable by doing glazes because they control it. Some people do cross-hatching, some people do stippling. So there are many different ways, many different techniques to resolve this problem, right? So, well, problem, this goal about refining. So I will explain you in future videos different techniques, so you will be able to choose your own. But it's like if you want to make a goal in a football match, you can score with your leg, with your head, with your butt if you want, right? But the matter is the final goal, right? So here is the same. You can choose your own technique depending on how you feel comfortable. So if someone tells you that there is only one technique, this guy is lying you. I promise you this. There are many different techniques, and every painter feels more comfortable with one or the other. And obviously, the more complete you are, the more techniques you control, and this gives you more freedom, right? Now we're going to define the bottom part of the nose, and this will help me. You see, I'm using some kind of orange in a dark area, but then this orange I can apply somewhere else, because as I told you before, we should use the color always, and this is a great way to help my brain to train to realize where I can place each color. And now you see that I'm mixing again, like this is orange, it's a reddish orange, so it looks like a red, that works as a red. We have some blue, cyan, and some yellow, and we can create another skin tone. In this case, it's an orangey, an orangey skin tone, and I can apply it with a medium dilution, and very quickly I will be able to blend. It's a wet blending technique, which is just one technique that you can use, but you can do it in any other way. And you see, I get approach to the clearer color, and I use this color to create like intermediate tones between the different patches. Like always, it's a repetition, right? And because it's wet, I can move the brush all over and mix quickly. And then I see that I need that in the jaw as well, and I place it straight away. So as soon as you need something, just place it. I mean, don't be afraid, don't be scared. There's no fear, you know? This is just painting, guys. I encourage you to try it, always, you know? I promise you, my ogre bust will not complain if you fail, right? So you can repeat or you can remove the paint. Now we're going to move to the nose, and we are going to increase the highlights. Sorry for the quality, but the problem is that sometimes the camera is not catching well the brightness, and we are having many issues. We're going to study, but we're newies with this, so sorry for that. And I'm using right now this super clear color that looks white. It's not purely white. It's some kind of really clear flesh tone. It will be like a palette flesh tone or something like this. And I will apply this here and there to create different, like super small dots or spots of light that will help me to define even more. And now you see I'm using a different technique. You know, before I was using like a wet blending technique, and now I'm using a wet stippling technique, which is slightly different. Also, I'm using the brush to create the feeling of wrinkles. Those wrinkles are not fully sculpted, so you can enhance this feeling by drawing, basically. And you see in the palette, I'm constantly like varying the tone, adding nuances or adding like small bits of each color to get the point or the nuance I want. Like I want to make it, let's say, super clear, but with a little bit of reddish for the nose, for example, or with a little bit of orange for the forehead. It's just a matter of recognizing what is the main color you want to match, and then applying this color or a similar color to your mixture to create an intermediate tone that will help you to make those bridges. And now, you know, I see that, and I decide, why not a scar in the forehead? Let's try it. And I try it straight away, you know, and then if I don't like it, I will remove or I will correct, because it's not a big deal. So remove your fears and then go straight away, right? And then the same tone I'm using for the scar, I can use it for somehow like tinting the noise I created in the lips, right? And then again with a clearer color, I can wet blend. Also check is very important. Obviously, we cannot explain everything at once. So this will be like a long journey through knowledge and explanations. And in different processes, you will start understanding much more this kind of organic and more maybe painterly or artistic processes. But see how I change the tracing of the brush. And sometimes, like for example, now in the nose that I want to apply a darker and more saturated color, more alive, because I need a certain quantity of red, but I don't want to place pure red because it will be too much. So I place some orange and I place it straight away. And now I'm adding more in the bottom of the nose. And you see that I have drawn also like a little line of clearer color under the nose that will help me to separate the nose from the mouth area, right? Okay, so here we're going to add like a scarlet red, something similar. It's an area color, and you see I will do a glaze right now. So the paint is super diluted, but easily because of the pigment, the high pigmentation of this paint, it tints completely the previous paint work super easily. These aero colors are fantastic for this kind of filtering or glazing processes because they are super strong pigment, but not as much as let's say Liquitex or Daler-Rowney or Winsor & Newton inks, things like this. I mean, it's not so strong, and indeed it's an airbrush color, and it's easy to control, really easy to dilute, easy to use with airbrush, but also easy to use with brush as well, right? You see, I continue searching for bridge tones, intermediate nuances, all by stippling with a middle dilution. It's like tuck, 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 tuck with the point of the brush. That helps me to merge this rounded area. And also the kind of texture I'm doing, I mean, it reminds me indeed to the feeling of a like fat and greasy nose, you know, like one ogre like this maybe could have. I don't feel this guy is taking too much care of the health of his nose skin. I'm very sorry that it flashed so much. We will hopefully find a solution in the next videos. We're very sorry for that. Fortunately, I moved the miniature so much, so I guess that in many frames you can check exactly how the colors are. But well, again, this is not a simple process to film. It's not as stacked step by step and moving all over. Now, for example, doing a small highlight in the border or the edge of the scar. And well, when it flashes so much and the camera is confused with the light, it's because most of the paint I'm using right now, like this whitey color, it has titanium white either in ink or heavy body. Both colors, both kind of pigments are, you know, too strong, and that's the reason why it flashed. You see that I have like make a wound and I have draw and then I didn't like it and now I change it completely, right? Oh, again by stippling, but now check that my stippling now it's a little bit inclined. I'm not doing it with the point of the tip, right? It's more with the last part of the body of the brush, right? And this is how I am adjusted here. And sometimes even with the finger I can also smash the paint a little bit, and this helped me to blend or to merge. But you see that now I'm doing even more texture, but it's a more controlled texture in a more specific area, much smaller. Now I go to the tip of the jaw. I don't know the name of that part. What's the name of that? I don't even know the name of that in Spanish. And then again, you see I'm connecting colors, and that's an important concept of this, like merging colors by mixing all of them and by using all of them and creating something that is all connected. The last color I'm using is almost like an ivory, you know? It's called linen white, but in this case, it's like an ivory from Vallejo, something like this. It's a very clear color that looks almost white, but it has a little bit of a yellowish feeling and it's super matte. And in this case, I will never use this color for the brightest highlights, but in an intermediate bright highlight point, you know, like imagine that we have different levels, so this won't be the last point, but it will be almost the last point. And this will help me also to define, because with this I'm defining the last parts of an area that has been treated with much more intense and saturated and vibrant colors, right? So this combination where the last or almost the last sparks are completely matte, the eye just what the eye see is just a contrast, and that's more than enough. You know, it's not that you have to go up and increase the, let's say, the satininess or the brightness of the pigment. Instead of, you can go like satin, and then super matte on top, and the eye will see a contrast. And with this, it's more than enough. It's just a trick, right? Now, don't forget to paint and tint the lips from the bottom. Most of you that already paint really wonderful figures, but sometimes when I'm judging them and I'm checking the miniature from different angles, I see that some parts are not even painted, you know, and that's a problem, because, you know, light is bouncing everywhere. Here I will enhance this little mark that I did sculpting, that is like a super little scratch, and I will just draw it again, because I think it's an interesting detail that gives him character, personality, and that's it. And now the same color, I can use it to make the outer shape of the, let's say, the eyes, you know, and is diluted, so it covers the gaps, and it will give me the feeling of these veins, right? Obviously now you see that the face is much more defined than before, but again, the body, I don't care so much. Now, obviously, if you change it and you move to the other side, it's just a sketch it, but now I wanna focus on this part. And if you're interested, please leave it in the comments, so then I see that you also watch the videos until the end, right? And you can tell me if you want me to finish this figure the other side, and you want me to see how I will resolve the other quiz, which is the other side of the face. So if you're interested on this, just write me. Sorry guys, sometimes my brain collapses with the verbal tenses, and anyway, you understood, I think. So if you want me to finish this figure, the figure is right now in my cabinet, so just tell me and I will finish the other side, okay? Obviously, because I'm searching for a very two-dimensional illustrational feeling right now, I'm just focusing in one side of the face, which is more important because I want you to see how everything is more defined, and how I came from the bigger areas where the brush was moving all over and dancing all over the surface, and now I'm much more concrete, much more precise to where I place the colors. I'm gonna pick this glossy black from Vallejo. It's a color that I love so much. It's one of the best blacks out there because it's a little bit glossy, just a little bit, but it works really well. And I do some kind of tertiary green color. It's like an ochre, green ochre, super easy. Again, you don't need ochres. You don't need tertiary colors. You can create your own. This is the way I will do the hair of the bird, the unshaved bird. And this is the technique. It's super easy. With the tip of the brush, we go in one direction doing certain variations, and this is the dilution I have, right? And then very quickly, without thinking too much, just following the shape of the jaw, and I continue add this detail. Tac, 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 easy. And obviously in a place where all the colors were, they were being merging well, but now I'm adding so much detail that this gives me more, I wouldn't call it reality, but it is more believable somehow, right? You're adding something extra information that is interesting. And then now in the mustache zone, the mustache area, with the same color I'm using to merge and to add an extra more grayish nuance, right? I use it all over as well, even to paint the eye. You see, I can check, and if I don't like it because it's a little bit too grayish, then I pick more like a clear flesh tone that will appear like almost white. You see in the screen it looks like white, but it's not white, and that makes the difference because I can still use white if I need. You know what I mean? So I can keep the titanium white or any kind of white, like an off-white, which is less strong. I can keep it for, let's say, a final spark in the eye if I need it, right? So now I'm using some kind of off-white I made myself, and with this is enough. You see, I'm not covering the surface regularly. It's not so necessary, you know. An eye is not perfect. I can also apply some lights in the this part of the eye, the upper part of the eye. I don't know how it's called. Excuse me, I had to check the word eyelid, okay? So you see the eyelids. I first place the light, then I decide, yeah, I wanna go for this level of value, which means brightness is the same. We will repeat these concepts very often. And then I just tint it with any other color. And now with a more diluted color, like a really dark brown that looks almost black depending on the perspective, and how close you see it, and in which comparison you see it with other colors. Then I paint the eyebrows, and you see that the dilution is a middle dilution. You know, it's not super diluted. Now I have more fluidity, it's more diluted, and what I'm gonna do is to check the level of value of the shaved hair. And because it's a sphere, more or less, no? The cranium is a sphere. Then I will place the light on top here and also in one side. And I place all over because the sculpt itself, it has already some kind of texture, so I can take advantage of this. And where it doesn't have texture, I add the texture myself by stippling. And then because it's still wet, this is like a bad filter, right? It's like a watercolor effect. And then I will filter on top of it. So first I have gained the, I don't know, like the light bouncing on the cranium first. And then I will create the effect of almost not transparency, but this feeling that the hair is underneath the skin. And with the skin tone, I just go all over, dancing with the brush. You see that the brush has been open. Well, you can use this because if you have different hairs, not only a one tip, you can also use it in your advantage, right? And now a darker color in this area, which is called the temple. And again, now this is more like creamy flesh tone for the upper part, but you see that the dilution is a pure glaze. That's a pure glaze, guys. The key is that I already have texture underneath because of the sculpt, and also because how I have painted before. So the base, the ground is already planted, you know, with many tones, and now it will accept almost everything. And you see how it's worked. How it works, you know, how it's working. And then if you find interesting that you have some tones in the brush and you want to start creating more like noise or details, like now enlarging the different scars and like cutting or trimming, you know, the shape of the hair, then you can do it straight away. As soon as you see something, go for it. Then we will cover the mohawk super quickly as well with a darker color, obviously, because this hair has been already come out of the skin. A little bit of light in the top, more darkness in the temple, a little bit more. This will help you to define, and also I will like start introducing the hair of the it says pin, the sideburns, sideburns. Sorry guys, I will learn all these words. Indeed, I'm doing a list of words to use, but it will take time. You know, I will improve. We will both, that David and me, we will improve our English definitely. Now, more colors from Reaper. You see that I move from the initial stages where I was using like super strong colors, and now I'm using like low pigmentation colors, Reapers in this case. So I want to create like some kind of dark sea blue. Really, I create that with the middle dilution. You see that it's a very watery blue, and this is the dilution. You see it's not completely distributed through the tip of the brush. Doesn't matter so much. And then it's when I use these googles, you see, because I'm getting old, obviously, like everybody else, I guess. And I need that to see closer. Obviously, if you're working 13 years professionally in miniature industry, probably you will need that at some point. So, before painting something super thin, I recommend you to practice on paper, to practice the trace, right? And this is a good way by I don't know, writing stupid things, your name or your signature. Yeah, like to feel comfortable with the dilution and the fluidity of the paint, right? That's important. So you need to trace. You need an easy trace. You see that the point of the tip of the brush has to be thin enough, and obviously if instead of doing it with a 4 size brush, you do it with a 1, it will be much easier. But I don't used to change the brush very often, to be fair. And this is where I have decided to paint the eye, and the reason why is because we start needing some details to accomplish the first sight of the figure. So that's why not to go for the eyes right now, to search for his eyesight, and this is also related with personality, and then we can check. Now a little bit of light that is bouncing from below in this part down the eyebrow, that I don't know the name. Even in Spanish, it's not that I don't want to translate, it's that I don't know the name of this part. But this part has a little bit of fat, you know, it's like skin that is like hanging skin, and it receives light, and it's very important. I mean, unless you want to do a really dark and grimy and mysterious character, maybe evil character, if this is not the case with this one, this is not a bad guy, this is just a tough guy, it's a badass, but it can be your friend at some point, right? You see, I have placed first orangey to create this flesh feeling, but instantly I add some kind of gray blue, which they are complementary. So if the paint is still wet, they will create the tertiary instantly, and then mixing with other bridge colors, creating more tertiary tones. In between, I will add some intermediate areas in the shadow part of the face. And you see here that I'm doing like a mixed technique because it's not a proper dilution for stippling, but indeed I'm playing with the tip of the brush. So this is how the face goes. This is like about 4 hours of work. Obviously, I mean, I can continue, like for example, starting based on what we already have. I can continue the sketch of the rest of the piece and well, like matching or getting colors approach. So it's like making a more refined sketches every time. Obviously, working shorter areas. This is something that we can continue working in the future. We will explain this in future videos, of course, with this one or with any other piece, obviously. These processes, I used to do them just for practice, just for training myself by now and then. You know, especially when I'm involved in a very long process, sometimes just to rest, I pick one of these simple pieces and I just do an exercise like this, 4 hours to relieve. It's a freestyle exercise indeed, is how I like to call it, because it's what represents the most what I'm doing. So it's a freestyle exercise. It's an improvisation, seeing where we can arrive, where we can go. And well, now we obviously need a little bit more definition, and with this we will have like a super advanced sketch for some people, for some hardheads that only see finished piece when it's everything polished. You know, some other people, we understand that the pieces are finished when the artist feels they're finished, and when the viewer feels that it's beautiful enough, and that's it. So you see the first phase of many that will come in the future. Sometimes most of the times when I finish a session that I like, and I like how it looks, I want to check if it's contrasted enough. That's why I do this. You know, it's like generating a really strong contrast with the skin tone, with the sides of the figure, that just with some kind of really dark gray or black with blue or something like this, and a little bit satin. This will help me to frame the miniature. It's like framing indeed. It's exactly like a frame. Obviously, then if we continue the piece and you do it in this kind of like super fast and expressive and aggressive style, obviously you will stay in it again, but it's just to check. Obviously, it's after a good session I check doing this. This is really like a super zoom, so you can see the size with my thumbnail. It will be like the thumbnail of a super advanced sketch of 4 hours. Then if we want to develop this until a super refined moment, you know, or super refined stage, a box art will be a few more hours, not so much, and a super refined piece for contest will be, I don't know, maybe a day. So we will have to probably now study it, take pictures, analyze if all the colors are placed well, if we need to resolve certain areas by refining, or by edge lining, or by blending, or by adding more noise, checking if all the colors works, if the projected shadows, like the casted shadows, like the nose one that defines really well, if it works. Indeed, it works fantastically, I think. But this will be the final like size, you know. So in this size, obviously everything changed and everything looks much accurate somehow. For me, I mean, I will probably, for my taste, I will not work more the face, at least for the moment. What I will do is go for the rest of the figure. Working in the rest of the body will help me that if I arrive to the same level of definition, then I can take more decisions properly. And obviously, this is, as I said, this is a freestyle exercise where I'm playing with the colors and when I'm trying to understand the piece. And with pieces like this that are very like simplistic, you know, or like an anonymous bust, pieces that are just like canvases for you to play, for you to understand, learning, colors, mixing. So it's not that I'm selling the miniatures. There are other companies that are selling like wonderful busts that you can use in this way. But obviously, I wanted to show you something personal from the very beginning, so you can check one of the free processes that I used to do very often for practicing or for courses especially. And well, I think that it's already a character, and then we have to decide if we want to go for something more refined or less, adding details, tattoos, whatever, or creating more personality. Well, I hope it has been a good video for you, something useful. We will, as I said, in future videos, we will advance and go to much more complex topics. There are many interesting topics here, like this bluish feeling shadow area. This could be a very interesting thing for the future. So if you want, just write me in the comment box and I will do the other side. And well, that's all. Thank you for watching. We're doing a big effort. We will be improving. We promise you the micro problem will be resolved at some point. We will do a high quality content every month, and we're very grateful for your support. Thank you very much, guys. I hope that the explanations has been clear enough. And if some of them has not been so clear, just taking into account that I'm dubbing in another language, please. It's not my mother tongue, obviously. I'm doing my best. I will improve my English with the time. And also, I will explain all these things many times in different ways and different metaphors and different processes, so you will be able to understand it deeply. But this is for you to develop like a mental speech where you will be understanding very slowly all the concepts I'm introducing to you, and those will be familiar to you by repetition, and you will be building up and settling down all this knowledge and all these ideas. And next time we will be speaking about any other of the topics that we have been speaking in this series of videos. Then you will be able to understand even better, obviously. So the different techniques, different procedures, they will be explained in future videos. Thank you very much for watching me. It's been my pleasure. See you guys. Thank you a lot.